States.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's really an honor. Speaker Johnson, Vice President Vance, First Lady of the United States. Second Lady of the United States. Members of Congress and my fellow Americans, our nation is back, bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before. Less than 5 months from now, our country will celebrate an epic milestone in American history, the 250th anniversary of our glorious American independence. This July 4th, we will mark 2.5 centuries of liberty and triumph, progress and freedom in the most incredible and exceptional nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. And you've seen nothing yet. We're going to do better and better and better. This is the golden age of America. When I last spoke in this chamber 12 months ago, I had just inherited a nation in crisis with a stagnant economy, inflation at record levels, a wide-open border, horrendous recruitment for military and police, rampant crime at home, and wars and chaos all over the world. But tonight, after just 1 year, I can say with dignity and pride that we have achieved a transformation like no one has ever seen before, and a turnaround for the ages. It is indeed a turnaround for the ages. And we will never go back to where we were just a very short time ago. We're not going back. Today, our border is secure. Thank you. Today, our border is secure. Our spirit is restored. Inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before, and our enemies are scared, our military and police are stacked, and America is respected again, perhaps like never before. After 4 years in which millions and millions of illegal aliens poured across our borders, totally unvetted and unchecked, we now have the strongest and most secure border in American history by far. In the past 9 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States. But we will always allow people to come in legally, people that will love our country and will work hard to maintain our country. The flow of deadly fentanyl across our border is down by a record 56% in 1 year. And last year, the murder rate saw its single largest decline in recorded history. This is the biggest decline, think of it, in recorded history, the lowest number in over 125 years, year 1900. In fact, substantially before my wonderful father, I had a wonderful father, Fred, before he was born, substantially before he was born. That's a long time ago. He wouldn't like me to say that, but that's a long time ago. The Biden administration and its allies in Congress gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. But in 12 months, my administration has driven core inflation down to the lowest level in more than 5 years. And in the last 3 months of 2025, it was down to 1.7%. Gasoline, which reached a peak of over $6 a gallon in some states under my predecessor, it was quite honestly a disaster, is now below $2.30 a gallon in most states, and in some places, $1.99 a gallon. And when I visited the great state of Iowa just a few weeks ago, I even saw $1.85 a gallon for gasoline. Mortgage rates are the lowest in 4 years and falling fast, and the annual cost of a typical new mortgage is down almost $5,000 just since I took office. 1 year. And low interest rates will solve the Biden-created housing problem while at the same time protecting the values of those people who already own a house that really feel rich for the first time in their lives. We want to protect those values. We want to keep those values up. We're going to do both. And we are going to keep it that way. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election. Think of that, 1 year. Boosting pensions, 401ks, and retirement accounts for the millions and millions of Americans. They're all gaining. Everybody's up, way up. In 4 long years, the last administration got less than $1 trillion in new investment in the United States. And when I say less, substantially less. In 12 months, I secured commitments for more than $18 trillion pouring in from all over the globe. Think of it, much less than $1 trillion for 4 years versus much more than $18 trillion for 1 year. What a difference a president makes. A short time ago, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world, the hottest. As thousands of new businesses are forming and factories, plants, and laboratories are being built, we have added 70,000 new construction jobs in just a very short period of time. It's getting bigger and bigger and stronger. Nobody can believe what they're watching. American oil production is up by more than 600,000 barrels a day, and we just received from our new friend and partner, Venezuela, more than 80 million barrels of oil. American natural gas production is at an all-time high because I kept my promise to drill, baby, drill. More Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. Think about that. Any time in the history of our country, more working today. And 100% of all jobs created under my administration have been in the private sector. We ended DEI in America. We cut a record number of job-killing regulations, and in 1 year we have lifted 2.4 million Americans, a record, off of food stamps. And for all of these reasons, I say tonight, members of Congress, the state of our union is strong. Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in. Go ahead. They do. That's the first time I've ever seen them get up. And actually, not all of them did get up. But they beat a fantastic Canadian team in overtime, as everybody saw, as did the American women who will soon be coming to the White House. They were in the Oval Office before. And I just want to say a second very big congratulations to Team USA. But I have to say that, and I told them this, and we took a vote of the team. I said, anybody votes no, I'm not doing it. So they stood there, and they weren't about to say no, because I've never seen a goaltender play as well as goalie Connor Hellebuck.
Homemade.
What's up, sir?
Oh, living the dream, man.
Look at it, 46
I wish.
shots on goal, and I asked him, the one shot, the
Yeah,
one where
I'm
you put your
fucking
stick in
cooked,
the
man.
back and it hit the neck
Bro,
of
I
your stick
bet,
and
man.
bounced off.
So what happened this time?
You practiced that? Or was that a
Nothing.
little
We
lucky?
just periodically
He refused
go
to
and
answer
get
that question.
labs and stuff done.
Oh, okay.
But I just
Wait,
want
why is
to
my background
tell
not
you
on?
that the members of
It
this
does
great
that from
hockey
time to
squad
time.
I think I got
will
logged
be
back
very
out, logged
happy
back
to
in.
hear,
We
based
should
on
put
their
those
vote
new
and my vote,
our
and
new
in this
logo
case,
in
my
as the
vote was more
background.
important,
Yeah,
that
I
I
will.
will soon
All right,
be
hold
I
on.
just haven't
presenting
figured out how I'm gonna
Connor with our
position it
highest
right.
civilian honor,
Gotcha.
which we will be
All right,
given,
give me a second. I'll be right
and
back
which
in.
has been given
Okey-dokey.
to many athletes over the years. But when I say many, not too many, like 12, it's called the highest civilian honor in our country, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Great athletes have gotten that, very great, the best, and I thought he deserved it. And I did take a vote, every single one of them. I said, I'm not giving it if anybody goes no, and every single one of them rapidly put up their hand. So I want to thank you all. What a special job you did. What special champions you are. Thank you very much. I'm also pleased to say that the next time the Olympic torch is lit, it will be here in America for the 2028 Olympics, and it's the summer version right in Los Angeles. We're going to do a good job in Los Angeles.
I'm just gonna test it real quick, see if it's still doing.
And Los Angeles is going to be safe, just like Washington, D.C. is now one of the safest cities in the country. And this year, and I must say I got them both. I got them in my first term, and I was disappointed because I didn't think I'd be the president when this happened. But strange things took place, and now I've got them because I got the Olympics and I got the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and I wanted to claim the 250th, but I didn't get away with that one. I couldn't claim that one for myself. But we're getting the World Cup, so we have the World Cup and the Olympics coming, and that is exciting news. So this will be a year to celebrate our country and the heroes who have kept it free.
Can you hear me?
Men like Buddy Taggart. At age 17, Buddy volunteered to defend America in World War II, serving in the Pacific under the great General Douglas MacArthur. He fought bravely in the famous Battle of Manila, worked so hard. He was badly wounded and almost killed by enemy machine guns in Luzon. And 81 years ago this month, he liberated the largest internment camp in the Philippines, one of the largest anywhere in the world. Buddy earned many honors, including a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star, came home, started a family, and tonight he is in the gallery looking forward to July 4th, 2026, his 100th birthday. So, Buddy, you're a brave man, and we salute you. Even in times of challenge, setback, and immense heartache, the spirit of 1776 has always shone through very brightly. It was July 4th of last year when floodwaters tore through a girls' summer camp in Central Texas, one of the worst things I've ever seen. I was there, rising 26 feet in the matter of minutes, tragically claiming many, many lives. You all remember that one. As the waters threatened to sweep her away, 11-year-old Millie Kate McClelland closed her eyes and prayed to God. She thought she was going to die. Those prayers were answered when Coast Guard rescue swimmer Scott Ruskin descended from a helicopter above. Nobody knew where he came from. It was Scott's first ever rescue mission, a young guy, but very brave, very, very top, always top in his class. And he lifted not just Millie Kate, but 164 others to safety. People watched Scott from a distance, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The winds were blowing, the rain was pouring, everything was going, and that rapid water, nobody's ever seen anything like it. They said, wow, that's something. Tonight, Scott and Millie Kate are here together, reunited for the very first time. Thank you, Scott, Millie Kate. And Petty Officer Ruskin, I'm pleased to inform you that I am now awarding you the Legion of Merit for extraordinary heroism, which is what it was, extraordinary heroism. Thank you. And I'd like to have the military aide to please come down and take care of the service. Military aide, thank you very much. Take care of that very important service. Thank you very much. From 1776 to today, every generation of Americans has stepped forward to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're really doing it for the next generation. But now it's our turn. Together we're building a nation where every child has the chance to reach higher and go further, where government answers to the people, not the powerful, and where the interests of hardworking American citizens are always our first and ultimate concern. That is the debt we owe to the heroes who came before us, and that is the promise we must keep to America for our 250th year. Last year, I urged this Congress to begin the mission by passing the largest tax cuts in American history, and our Republican majorities delivered so beautifully. Thank you, Republicans. All Democrats, every single one of them, voted against these really important and very necessary massive tax cuts. They wanted large-scale tax increases to hurt the people instead. But we held strong, and with the great, big, beautiful bill, we gave you no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And we also made interest on auto loans tax deductible the first time, but only if the car is made in America. Recently in Pennsylvania, I met Megan Hemhauser, a devoted mom who's homeschools her children, beautiful, 2 children, during the day while waiting tables at night as her husband works overtime operating very heavy equipment. Megan is here this evening, and she's happy to tell you that she is so much richer because with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and our expanded child tax credit done again by Republicans, Megan and her husband will take home more than $5,000 extra just for the year, cutting her tax bill in more than half. Megan, please stand up. We're fighting for you, Megan. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Megan. We're fighting for you, Megan. Under our bill, parents like Megan can also activate their children's brand new Trump accounts. And I didn't name it. I did not name it. I did not name that. Nobody believes me, but I did not name it. It was named by a very tall man sitting right there in the third row. Nice man, a good man. Tax-free investment accounts for every American child. This is something that's so special and has taken off and gone through the roof. Millions will be pre-funded courtesy of the U.S. Treasury and private individuals like Michael and Susan Dell, who have donated $6.25 billion to fund the Trump accounts for 25 million American children. They're great people. You know, I asked Michael Dell, how do you make all that money? He said, well, I just sat on my dorm in school, and I made computers, and I'd sell them to people, and I just kept selling and selling and selling, and pretty amazing story. That's called the American dream. He sold a lot of computers, a lot of those laptops, so I congratulate him on that, but I really thank him and Susan, as well as others like Brad Gerstner, a very tremendous guy. He was behind it right from the beginning. Brad Gerstner. Thank you, Brad. So with modest additional contributions, these young people's accounts could grow to over $100,000 or more by the time they turn 18. Think of it. How much money is that for somebody that started with nothing? Over 100,000, could be much more than that. To make this investment in our children's future, go to trumpaccounts.gov, trumpaccounts.gov. And a lot of people are doing it. It's setting every record in the book. It's popular. They knew what it was going to take. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the people that got it started. And now it's just taken off. One of the primary reasons for our country's stunning economic turnaround, the biggest in history, where the Dow Jones broke 50,000 4 years ahead of schedule, and the S&P hit 7,000, where it wasn't supposed to do it for many years were tariffs. I used these tariffs, took in hundreds of billions of dollars to make great deals for our country, both economic.
Sound the alarm! To arms! They are here!
Tonight we're
Want to
joined
keep
by
the
Jason
deal
Foreman and Robert Landon.
that they already
and
made.
It's just
Right,
us
Scott?
today, no special
Knowing
guests.
that the legal
but
power that I,
we should
as
have a pretty good
president,
show for you.
have to
We're going
make
to talk
a
about
new deal
some
could be far
national
worse for
news
them,
topics.
and
The
therefore
State of
they
the
will
Union
continue
address,
to
which
work
was
along the
just
same
delivered the other
successful
night
path
by
we had negotiated
President
before
Donald
the
Trump. And
Supreme
who
Court's
the hell knows what else we're going to
unfortunate
talk about tonight,
involvement.
but it's
So
sure to be
despite the
a good show.
disappointing
So,
ruling,
Robert,
he's
Jason, how
powerful.
are you guys doing
Country
today?
saving. It's saving our country, the kind of money we're taking in.
Is that Jay
Peace
talking?
protecting.
I'll talk. So
Many of the wars
you're
I'm doing
muted,
pretty
buddy.
good.
just because of the threat of tariffs. I wouldn't have been able to settle them.
Jay's in another world, manning the
I know
board.
I know we were having sound issues. No, man, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited about tonight. You know, I love talking about national news, and especially when there's like a whole list of things to talk about and a lot of flashpoints going on all across the world. So I don't think we have a lack of content for tonight.
Well, what's top of mind for you right now, Robert?
You know, for me, the top thing right now is what just happened yesterday, where the Cuban government attacked a Florida registered speedboat with 10 aboard of this boat. And I believe when I was digging in, law enforcement in the state of Florida, they investigated this, and I think the boat was stolen. So the original owner of the boat wasn't the one that was involved. It was a group of people that stole the boat. They got too close inside Cuban waters. There was a U.S. citizen that was killed and some others that were injured. And I know the U.S. government right now, they're playing it safe and they're being calm and they're investigating it. So there's no immediate response. But I don't know if y'all saw Secretary of State Marco Rubio's press conference regarding that, and even Vice President J.D. Vance's comments. They're basically saying, listen, if there's something to this, that they're going to respond. And this is just another excuse for President Trump, because I mean they're already looking at Cuba. They've been talking about that. We've kind of embargoed them in a sense with their oil. I don't know if you guys saw that. They've been struggling importing oil now that we had basically seized Venezuela. So lots of stuff going on down there in Cuba.
So what are your opinions on that, Robert?
What we're going to do next?
Well, that, and is it a good thing? I mean, should we conquer Cuba, or what do you think?
I don't think we should conquer Cuba in the sense like we make it a territory, like how we have like Puerto Rico and Guam and others. But I think what you'll see is probably something along the lines of what happened in Venezuela. Not necessarily where they're sending in Delta Force to capture the leader. I don't know what Trump's going to do with that, but I definitely think they will try to force a regime change. Trump has been outspoken about Cuba for a long time. I mean, back to before he was a president. And that's one thing you can say about President Trump is he's been consistent in his principles. He talked about Japan back in the 80s when Japan was wiping the floor with everybody on trade and economic growth. And nobody wanted to listen to him back then. So I think he's going to seek a regime change. I mean, it's still the Castro family that's in power, and the Cuban people deserve to have some freedom after all these years.
We shall see. I don't know. My take is it's all due to the rise of BRICS and the challenge posed by an alternative system to US dollar hegemony. And we've seen what the dollar has done recently, and what our government and the Federal Reserve has done for decades, ever since they took it off the gold standard under President Nixon. It's basically monopoly money, and they have manipulated that to the extreme, to the point where now we have $40 trillion in national debt, and it's rising, rising, rising. So pretty much that's the situation geopolitically. And that can be stated for Russia and Ukraine and China and Taiwan and Venezuela and Cuba and wherever else. It's using military might in order to try to maintain the global reserve currency status of the US dollar in the midst of severe financial mismanagement by the United States of that status for decades. And in particular, since 2008, when they implemented quantitative easing, which what that is, is where the government issues debt in the form of US Treasury bonds, which are basically IOUs. So they'll say, if you give us $1,000 now, we'll give you $1,100 in 10 years, or whatever the rate is on that treasury, that yield. And they issued a whole bunch of debt. And then who prints our currency? Our currency is printed by the Federal Reserve, which is not a government institution. It's a group of private bankers. So they print the money, and then they were buying US debt by the bushel for, I mean, they're still doing it, but it was hardcore after 2008's recession. And that's why we have so much inflation. That's why we have so much national debt. And the Federal Reserve and the US government, that whole scheme of quantitative easing is what caused it. So they got to back the military and pump a bunch of money to make sure they're the toughest guy on the block, so that if anybody gets out of line and says, "Wait a minute, you guys are screwing us over with this dollar, because we're forced to buy your dollars and invest in your debt in order to trade in the international markets. So they don't like that, because what happens, is, let's say a country like Zimbabwe, you know, needs to buy oil from Saudi Arabia. Well, they have to pay Saudi Arabia in US dollars.
Hmm.
So they go and they buy a billion, or convert their currency into $1 billion. And then next year, because of all the printing that the US has done, the purchasing power of that $1 billion that they bought last year has now been diminished to 900 million. So $100 million vanishes. So that's why a lot of these other countries are like not very happy with our financial management and fiscal policy, monetary policy. So we got to keep them in line. That's my view of it. Is that's what they're doing. They're trying to keep these
Right.
other countries in line to preserve the domination of the US dollar.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to JFK and the Cuban Missile Crisis, I mean, we've known Cuba as a strategic strike point from our adversaries to mainland U.S. And that's why JFK signed off on the Bay of Pigs fiasco. Even against his probably his own better judgment. And I think we don't know. Does China already have assets in Cuba? America's probably never going to admit that. But is that another reason why that's got a renewed interest? I mean, Trump did not, in his first term, if you go back and look at what he did and what he focused on in first term, he did not focus on Western hegemony like he is this term. Am I right? I mean, it seems like he's really renewed that doctrine of, hey, we're going to dominate the Western hemisphere. And they are not being shy. They're not being shy about it. And because we can't let Russia or we can't let China get a foothold into Cuba again. So it's just not in our national interest. And I think, I support, we have to protect our own backyard, and they're literally right in our own backyard. So, but to your point, I think you're right on the broader scheme of things. Cuba could be a part of the BRICS nations, at some point. We've got to stop China from infiltrating Cuba, gaining influence and a foothold to, be able to attack us or whatever they want to do.
I don't know. It's the death thralls of a dying empire.
Right.
And I'm sorry to be so cynical, and it's not to be critical of the American people, but that's what stage of the game we're at, objectively. I mean, our society, you cannot say is healthy. Our society is very degenerate, very sick, and that's late stage empire. Think of Rome and the crumbling and all the mess that they had, late stage empire, before the collapse. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm just being cynical and stuff, but we have a insurmountable amount of debt. And with what has been done over the last 20 years with the neocon wars and the wasting of trillions of dollars on a pointless endeavor in Iraq, Afghanistan, and like I said, all the printing of money and issuance of debt in the meantime, flooding this country with all numbers of illegal aliens from all over the third world. It's not indicative of a healthy civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same can be said just culturally, where you have people who genuinely think that they're cats and urinate and defecate in a litter box, and that is accepted by medical professionals as being normal.
They're not cats,
So,
Cody. They're furries.
yeah, well, they think they're cats, you know, or you have a Supreme Court justice who can't define the difference between a man and a woman. So that's not good. That's not
Right.
good. It
Right.
doesn't bode well for the future of this country. So I don't know. That's how I see it. And these geopolitical squabbles, that's what's going on. Is it's just trying to um, maintain dominance or hegemony. And like you said, Robert, if there is a genuine threat militarily from China or Russia or whoever, uh, I don't think it's from Russia, to be honest. Like what's going on in Ukraine was Western intervention. They did the Maidan revolution and overthrew the democratically elected government in Ukraine. And that was all CIA, Mossad, the usual suspects, in order to try to put pressure on Russia. And the eastern half of Russia is Russian speaking. And not that there's much difference between Ukrainians and Russians anyway. It's basically the difference between somebody from Louisiana and somebody from Maine.
Yeah.
You know, genetically, they're both Eastern Slavs. The language is only slightly different. And they were historically both the products of the Kievan Rus.
Mm.
So that is all part of the game, as I was talking about, trying to put pressure on a potential geopolitical foe
Hmm.
in Russia. And but do I think that they're going to be like the Soviet Union and try to sneak in nuclear warheads into Cuba?
Yeah.
I don't see that. Same thing with China. China's never been a civilization that seeks to like conquer militarily. They've always preferred to dominate through trade. So it's a unique civilization, and it's one of the world's great civilizations. But they're not the Mongolians. They're not riding around killing people, raping and pillaging, and spreading empire like Genghis Khan.
Hmm.
The Chinese, they dominated for sure throughout portions of history, but it was always through economic trade. And they'll wait their adversaries out. So it's kind of like the Sun Tzu and all that. They think about things. And
Yeah.
just like today, they put 100-year plans, 200-year plans, which is crazy to think that their politicians, their leaders, sit down and actually strategize well beyond their lifetimes.
Right.
Can you imagine some asshole in Washington, D.C. thinking further than the moment or 10 minutes ahead? No, they don't. They're the ones that rape and pillage the American people. So they certainly don't give a shit or a thought to what the impact's going to be 100 years from now. What do you think, Robert?
No, I agree. I think that's a strikingly excellent point. I was just looking up, it looks like, because I was kind of curious about this when you started speaking on China, because I never thought about it like that until you just mentioned that. Like they really aren't, if you study history, I know you're a history guy. I like history. I don't recall ever seeing any kind of major military campaigns outside of China. And so I was just looking it up, and it looks like at least 25 to 40% of China's history was marked by significant internal conflict and civil wars. So that could also be part of the reason why, because they haven't always been a unified government. There was always clans and things throughout their history, but that could just be another reason. And Russia is the expansionist type, but like you said, they're so bogged down right now with Ukraine. I think the other potential threat that could exist in Cuba is Iran. And their proxies, Hezbollah and Hamas and all the other networks that they have. You can go out there online right now and easily see, former CIA officers talking about all the cells that we have in the United States already. So, I mean, they don't really need Cuba for that, I guess, but just using it as like as an actual base of operation, because Iran is trying to get more sophisticated with their drone weaponry, kind of like Ukraine has done. And so I don't know. I think, just kind of, I don't want to beat the horse with the Cuba situation. I just think that, we have a lot of interest there. It's like, if you had a terrorist camp come up and sit up behind your backyard, you'd be perking up a little bit. And so that's just how I see it. And I think Trump will respond accordingly. I mean, definitely no doubt about that.
Well, just like Iran, again, are the Iranians going to put anything that's of significant threat in Cuba? No way, no how, man. They're literally, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, the regime was hanging on by a thread. Tehran, I think, has been in a drought for I don't know how long. They were even talking about abandoning it and moving the capital further south because of the water issue. It's all provocation done by Israel, by Netanyahu against Iran. Now, you can say they're the biggest boogeyman in the Middle East or in South Asia. Do they have a great relationship with Israel or us historically since the Ayatollah Khomeini and the revolution? They don't, but they've also had a lot of provocation during that time as well. And that kind of transitions into another topic. Did you guys see Tucker Carlson's interview with Mike Huckabee,
Oh yeah.
our Arkansas governor, who's now serving as the ambassador to Israel? Did you watch that, Robert?
I got to see a good portion of it. I didn't get to see the whole thing, but man, like it got pretty tense there. And which is sad because, both of them are, on the conservative camp, but obviously different ideologies when it comes to Israel. And yeah, that got pretty heated.
The best part, or the most striking part, which Huckabee took a lot of flack internationally for, was when Tucker, it was all in the context, started out in the context of Gaza and what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, which is basically a genocide. Say what you want about it, that's what it is. Now, you can say that Israel, that's their territory, so they can do what they want. But if you investigate what's actually happening on the ground and what has been happening, Gaza was pretty much an open air prison camp where the Palestinians could not come or go as they pleased. It was, I think, one of the most densely populated areas in the world and one of the most impoverished. So then when the events of October 20th occurred, that was utilized by Netanyahu to basically level Gaza, clean it out, and then plan to resettle a bunch of Jews after everything's been knocked down and the people been killed or removed. And Tucker kind of brings that up about Israeli policy in Gaza, and Huckabee says that it's all a mandate by the Bible. That's where the Jews get their authority over the land of Israel. And Tucker Carlson rightly stated that, well, if you're going off of the Bible as the legitimacy for the Jews to control that land, the Bible actually says that God gave the Jews the land from the Euphrates, which is
Right.
all the way to the Nile. So Tucker said, if that mandate is a biblical one, then would you be in favor if Israel wanted to conquer and do the same thing they're doing to Gaza and the Palestinians, to the Iraqis, to the Saudi Arabians, to the Lebanese, to the Syrians? And Mike Huckabee said, yeah, it'd be fine. It'd be fine, that, and that's all this Christian Zionism, that has pervaded Christian theology for the better. It's relatively new, folks. If you look into the history of this whole dispensationalism, Christian Zionism, it's all about 130 to 150 years old. Prior to that, Christian theology was much different, and you didn't have these notions of, Christian Zionism, where the Jews are God's chosen people. It was theologically, it was supersessionism. Supersessionism was a predominant theory theologically amongst Christians from the days of Jesus Christ all the way up until about the 1850s, 60s, 70s AD. And under supersessionism, that belief is that God had a covenant with the Jews, and then Jesus came, and then the covenant was with the Christian church and with followers of Christ. So that new covenant supersedes the old one. And that was all turned on its head again fairly recently in historic time. Now, Robert, those might be fun words to you. I know you're a big evangelical Christian. I don't know if you would consider yourself a Christian Zionist or not, like Mike Huckabee. But what are your thoughts on that whole exchange between Tucker Carlson and Mike Huckabee? Are the Jews entitled to all of the Middle East from the Euphrates to the Nile, or what do you think?
So this is great conversation because you know me, I like to get into some deep theological discussions, and it's interesting that you were talking about this because just me and a couple people were recently just meeting about this and talking about replacement theology because there, and I will admit, up until recently, a few years ago, I used to subscribe. I had always been raised in the church and was taught that Christians became God's people and we replaced the Jews. And, my opinion is, the more I've studied it out, is that I don't believe we've replaced the Jews. I believe that, we're still God's people, of course. But the Jews are still God's people in their own way. And when God said that he made an everlasting covenant, that wasn't going away. And he's not going to turn on his word. So God still has a very specific calling and mission and way the way he interacts with the Jewish people. But we can't necessarily say that the nation of Israel today is the nation of Israel in the Bible, neither. And in fact, a large part of Israel is atheistic, agnostic, whatever. And so I don't subscribe to replacement theology. I still believe that God has a specific mission and a specific calling for the Jewish people. As we know in biblical prophecy, that in the end times that they will come to know that they denied their Messiah, because right now they still have their blinders on. They don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah. And so,
Do you know what they believe? The fate of Jesus is the heretic. He's not the Messiah. But do you know what Jewish beliefs and the Talmud teach about where Jesus is today?
no.
they preach that he is boiling in a vat of feces.
Well, I think it's important to separate that there's Talmudic Jews and Kabbalah Jews, and then there's Jews that are your traditionalists who just stick with the Torah. Because
They're
yeah,
all Talmudic. The Babylonian Talmud is now, they still view the Torah obviously as an important book, but that all goes with the sacking of the temple
mhm,
in the 66 or 67 AD
mhm,
by the Romans, and then the disbursement, the diaspora. That's when the Jews spread
mhm,
out across the land, and then eventually ended up in Europe, a portion of them. But
that is.
the Talmud is Mishnah, the Torah, the Talmud, um, the Sanhedrin, all those things are of critical importance to it.
Mhm. Yeah, no, all of the what we're talking about right now plays into this whole discussion between Mike Huckabee and Tucker Carlson, because they both have different points of view. Mike Huckabee, like you said, is a Christian Zionist, so he believes that the Jews have a right to all of that land. But at what point did the Jews forfeit that land too? You know, because they never truly it never came to fruition when you study biblical history. They never fully dominated all of the land that they were supposed to steward. So, but you know, we can make that argument. What's it going to look like in the end times when in the second coming of Jesus Christ in the millennial reign? You know, maybe that's going to be the land that they're giving during that last 1,000 years in the millennial reign. So, uh,
So will that be from Iraq to Egypt? Do we expect Netanyahu to build his Israeli empire? And I mean, they essentially already have, even though they have puppet regimes. But I mean, look at what happened in Lebanon. Look at what happened here to Assad. He had to flee Syria. Iraq was toppled. Um, they've got a really pretty historically, they have a tight relationship with the Saudis. And if
mm,
you look at the origin of Saudi Arabia and the House of Al Saud, which is the basis of Saudi Arabia, um, that was all very tied closely with the foundation of Israel,
mhm,
and uh, uh, David Ben Gurion, um, who was the founder of the modern state of Israel. So they've already kind of built that. Now they're not going in and giving it the Gaza treatment yet, but do you think that we'll see that, Robert? Oh, and what they did in Egypt with the color revolution when Obama was in office, and they ousted Mubarak.
yeah, I mean it's going to be hard to tell. I just know, you know, Iran and whoever in the Middle East. I mean, you gotta give it to Israel for as small of a nation as they are by landmass and the quality of their weaponry, the quality of their intelligence. I mean, the Mossad is like unmatched, man. I mean, they're on par with the CIA and MI6. The quality of their Air
Better.
Force. What's that?
Mossad is intelligence.
That's what
They
I'm
don't
saying.
have the weaponry that we have. We're kind of they're kind of the like really cunning,
Hmm.
sibling, and
Hmm.
like really intelligent and
Right.
cunning and all that stuff. And then we're the big like muscle bound oaf with like a 60 IQ that
Yeah.
only knows how to smash people.
Yeah.
They're sitting there, they're little and stuff, and saying, "Oh yeah, you need to get that guy." And then we go, "We smash for you," and then we smash him.
Well, we're like in Marvel. We're like Hulk, and they're like Spider-Man. They got
Yeah,
the spy
I
they
mean
got the
that's
spidey senses, and you know they're in slow motion dodging all the bullets and stuff.
if Hulk was like a, yeah, I'm not even gonna say it, but okay.
But and go back to when they did the 6 Day War, man, back in the what was it, in the 1960s.
67.
Yeah, 67. And when they took on all those nations, man, what was it, like 12 nations, that 12 Arab nations that they took on. And that was back then. They were only what, 20, they would have been 23. They were founded in 44. So
48.
48. So what, not even 20 years
19.
old yet. I mean, that's it, just how fast they had rapidly developed. And remember, before the Jews came back into the land, it wasn't as lush and as prosperous as it is today either. So I think God's hand's still on the Jewish people. I don't want to take a side between Mike Huckabee and Tucker Carlson, because I think they're both wrong. I think, and this is just my opinion, I think that Tucker's going so far to where it's everything that the Jews do now. I mean, we got to hold them accountable because they're like these genocidal maniacs, and it's like, but you got to separate their government from the people. You can't hold every single Jew to the standard of Benjamin Netanyahu or whoever. A lot of Jewish people are good people, just like there's a lot of good Muslims. So I wouldn't pick a stance between one or the other. I think that they both are going to extremes, and we have a duty to. They're an ally. Let's take out religion. We've committed to them being an ally, and so when we say, hey, we're going to have your back. We need to be there to have their backs. That doesn't mean we can't call a spade and say, hey, listen, we're not supporting that. If they became genocidal, obviously we don't back that. But
Is that alliance, though, Robert? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
Is that alliance like one-sided? Like, what do we get? They get our money through direct subsidies. They get our technology. And in fact, Trump himself, when they talked about the Iron Dome, Trump's like, we built that. So we
Right.
do all this for them. We give them billions of dollars. We provide them with security by saying, hey, if anybody F's with you, then we're going to F you up. We do direct intervention on their behalf. The clearest, most recent example is Iran.
Mhm.
When we send our bombers to go in and bomb the hell out of their alleged sites, nuclear sites. You could throw Iraq in there. I mean, that was all bullshit, lies by Colin Powell and George W. And for what purpose? Did the American people benefit? No. We
Yeah.
paid for it. We had our boys and girls being blown up by roadside bombs. Who did it benefit? It benefited Israel. So what do we get? Like,
So that's a
do you
great
know?
question. Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. But at the same time, so for instance, I was just looking it up. We give Israel about 3 to maybe $4 billion a year at most in aid. And the
In
great,
direct aid that we will admit.
yeah,
I want to see how much money has been funneled there indirectly, covertly. But go on.
yeah. I mean, I would doubt that it's probably much more than that. I mean, we definitely give them a lot of intelligence assets and things like that. Here, but to answer your question, is it like a one-sided relationship? Well, I mean, honestly, isn't every relationship that the United States is in is one-sided? Because I mean, we're such a behemoth. But it would be like saying, are we getting our money's worth with the United Kingdom? Well, going back for almost 100 years now, every war we fought in the United Kingdom has always been right beside us fighting. So Israel gives us a strategic ally in the Middle East with a lot of our enemies that hate us. Iran, we had Iraq and others.
Would they
They,
hate us if we weren't, doing the bidding of Israel and screwing with them? Like, honestly, like George Washington wasn't sitting there like, after I defeat the British at Yorktown, then I am going to launch a campaign against the Sultan of Oman or some shit like that. No, they didn't even think about that stuff because they, it's like, oh, we're going to be peaceful, and that's what Washington himself said, like
Yeah.
avoid foreign entanglements.
Yeah.
When he did his address, he said, "That's my suggestion to future generations of Americans is to avoid foreign entanglements."
Hmm.
And here we are, we're entangled everywhere,
Yeah.
and largely it comes down, and most of the biggest entanglements that we've been in
Hmm.
has been because of our relationship with Israel. Like,
Hmm.
I don't care about Israel. I really don't. I don't view it as the this necessary culmination of God's plan and stuff like that. I don't believe that I'm more of a supersessionist
Hmm.
from that in that regards, which
Sure.
again is historical Christianity. This
Hmm.
crap that is preached in the pulpits today and for the better part of 130, 140, 150 years is heresy. It would have been considered heresy 2 centuries ago and beyond.
Hmm.
So, especially when you say we're talking about a government, we're
Hmm.
talking about a nation of Israel. Um, but let
Well,
them do what they want to do. If they want to go off and they want to get in a fight with everybody in the Middle East, or they want to, piss everybody off, let them.
mhm,
Don't give them our money. We have two vast oceans. And that was the other thing that the founders recognized. They said, we're in a unique position here. This is really a new world.
mhm,
That's why that term was used when the Western Hemisphere was discovered, is because it was so freaking far away. It was like it was a completely different world.
mhm,
And that's what we had here. And that's what we
mhm,
need to get back to. So, yeah, if Trump wants to go off and shore up the defenses of the Western Hemisphere, if that's the thought, great, do it. But we do not need to be in 196 countries or whatever we are with boots on the ground. We do not need to be intervening on behalf of Israel or any other country.
mhm,
Focus on America. That should be what the essence of America first is.
mhm.
Robert, go ahead.
No, you're making great points. I think you had mentioned something earlier that I was going to respond to was you said well, would those Arab nations hate us if it wasn't for our alliance with Israel? Absolutely, they would, because they've always called us big Satan and Israel's little Satan. So they
But
hate
ever
us.
since Israel existed,
Huh?
so 1948, so we don't push the formation. And that are, are you aware how that happened?
Well, but they hate us. I mean, honestly, and Israel wasn't even really involved in the Iraq war, like the United Kingdom, France, and our other allies were.
Oh, they got to wash their hands. It's like
Right, but they hate
Pontius Pilate. I
yeah,
wash my hands of this. You guys do you.
yeah,
So,
but they hate us
but
just
it was their
because
bidding.
they hate us just because of how dominant we are, and we're willing to go into their countries and attack. I don't think that had anything to do with Israel. They would hate us regardless, because we've done that with or without Israel.
You
But
remember
just
what
go,
Netanyahu said though
huh?
during that whole time? You know what Netanyahu, and you can bring those clips up from 2002, 2003, before the Iraq invasion. And Netanyahu was using the same arguments that he's using
Oh
against
yeah.
Iran, against Iraq, saying, "Oh, they've got weapons of mass destruction, and we need to take action." And when he says "we," he meant the United States.
Hmm.
You know, so you can almost compare if you put 2002 Netanyahu stoking up fear against Iraq and Saddam Hussein and compare it with 2025 Netanyahu stoking up fear against Iran. And he says the same shit. It's literally verbatim. It's
Hmm.
like Bizarro world. It's like, did we go back in time and now we're dealing with this Iraq situation again? You
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like little brother's always calling big brother to have their back. I mean, and there's no doubt about that. But I guess my final point on the question of, is it an unbalanced relationship? Yes and no. Every relationship the United States is involved in is unbalanced, unfortunately. Just like with NATO, Trump was correcting that. And actually, in fact, I think Netanyahu recently said, now whether he'll hold up his end of the bargain on this or not is another thing. But he did go on American news and say that over the next 10 years, he wants to phase out American funding altogether, 100%. So, but it's like 10 years. It's like, why do you need 10 years to get rid of $3 billion? I mean, is that $3 billion really that
Because
important
it's
to y'all?
more. It's a lot
So,
more.
yeah.
And that's just
So
like you want to talk about this relationship, Robert. Did you see what the Ohio House just passed? And I think it cleared. I think it was signed into law, but I saw it when it was passed by the House in regards to Israel. Did you see that?
I did not know what will happen.
We're engaging as a state now
Oh,
in a strategic partnership, an alliance with Israel.
mhm.
So there's nothing in there as far as what that means. I know that a bunch of Ohio politicians are going to be going over to Israel to kiss the wall and do what every American politician always does when they go visit Israel. But I'm like, well, what's Ohio going to get? Like, are we going to get data centers? Are we going to get more surveillance and spying and stuff because that's what they're number one in? Or are we going to get something like more tangible of a benefit to the Ohio people? I don't know, but I thought that was interesting that you say like, okay, well, what are we going to get from this?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I don't know, but you look at I'm gonna go just a little bit of historical. I won't go off on a tangent on this, but uh, if you're interested in learning about the formation of the state of Israel historically, you want to research Theodore Herzl. So he's one of the spiritual founders of the modern state of Israel and the Zionist movement. So the belief that Jews should move back to the Holy Land and move back to Palestine or Israel. At the time, it was called Palestine, and it was um, first under the Turkish. And then when Turkey, or the Ottomans, I should say, not Turkey, the Turkish Ottomans, if you want to be more correct. But when the Ottomans were defeated in World War One, then the British took over, and that's kind of when things really started forming for the foundation of the state of Israel. Now, another history lesson for you that you can look up if you're interested in this topic is just the history of World War One and its connection to the foundation of Israel. Woodrow Wilson was elected president in 1916, re-elected president in 1916, under a campaign slogan, "Vote Wilson, he kept us out of war." So World
Mhm.
War One had been waging since 1914, and millions of men from both sides were dying in the trenches on the Western Front. And there was also a really bad war being waged on the Eastern Front between the Germans and the Russians. Well, it didn't look very good for the Allies, for the British and the French. Russia was a shit show. So there was some concern. So Lord Rothschild of the famous Jewish banking family um, approaches Lord Balfour of the British Empire and negotiates an agreement known as the Balfour Declaration, whereby Rothschild, through his international banking connections, not only in Europe but also in the United States, Rothschild said, if you get the Americans, or Balfour said, if you get the Americans to come into this war, you get Wilson to agree to come in on the side of the Allies. We, the British, will give you Palestine for a nation.
Mhm.
So Rothschild just says, well, let me pick up the phone here and I'm going to call over to all of my banking elites in New York and their asses will go to Wilson and tell him, hey, we're going to war against Germany, even though I campaigned saying that I wasn't going to. So that's what happened. They made
Right.
the agreement. And there's actually an interview that they do with one of the Rothschilds here, where he has that agreement. That's like he's doing an interview showing his mansion and stuff, and he says, this is one of my prized possessions because it was my family, my Jewish family, that negotiated with the British to secure a promise of a nation from the British Empire, which would become Israel. And then fast forward, 1948, it's founded. And it's full of, problem was, it was full of Palestinians. It was full of Arabs. So they literally, like, could be like somebody coming to your house, Robert, and saying, hey, we know that you've lived here your whole life and your family and generations. Get the hell out. We're gonna move our asses here. And that's pretty much what happened.
I
Not a
mean, but
very
isn't that
good.
all of human history though? I mean, like, what do we do to the Indians? You know what I mean? Like, we kind of did the same thing with the Indians.
Conquered them. Yeah, conquest is definitely, that wasn't conquest. That wasn't. The
What was it?
British, the Ottomans conquered it. The British conquered it. Was there a Jewish army that landed on the beaches of the Mediterranean outside of Haifa or something and stormed the beaches and defeated the Arabs in the spring of 1922 or some shit like that? No, that's not what happened. It was under the threat of the big oath saying, if you don't do this, we crush you, and meanwhile, get the hell out. And that's what happened. Like,
I don't know. Sounds like a lot like American history.
no, we defeated it. No, you cannot compare that with
Why
what
not?
happened with the
Why
Indians. You
not?
can't. We defeated them militarily again and again. We defeated them, and to the
Okay.
victors go the spoils.
Yeah.
The Jews
We
did not
defeated
defeat the
them
Arabs.
just like Israel defeated the Palestinians in a different way. If anything, you could say did it more smoothly because they just came in there and say, okay, this is ours, and then just shut up shop. And then like nothing else happened. Like it took us like
Because under the penalty of the British or the Americans or something doing
right.
something. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, oh no, it was a great. If you can get everything you want by using protection from your friend, the tough guy,
Yeah. No military
without
power.
getting in a fight, it's great for
Yeah.
you. And I'm not criticizing that
Yeah.
from that perspective. All I'm saying is that's what happened. It's not
Yeah.
like they fought some grand conquest. Like we conquered this country. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what it's portrayed as being, is like, oh, we victimized all these, helpless Indian tribes and stuff. That's not what happened. If you look into the American Revolution, even beyond before that, French and Indian War, Lord Dunmore's War, you can go on and on and on throughout American history, and there was battles. I mean, there was conflict, and it pretty well just one side was completely defeated. And for what it's
Yeah.
worth, not saying that it was great either, but it was different. It was conquest, and conquest is a recurring theme throughout the history of mankind. So we can go back to what I mentioned earlier about Genghis Khan, the largest landmass, except for the British Empire, of centuries later. But for that period of time, or the 13th and 14th centuries, that was the biggest empire.
Hey, and I'm just going to
Alexander,
say something tongue in cheek here too. The Brits had no right to get that big and have that terrible food. I mean, am I right? I mean, at least
hey,
like the Spanish had good food.
they had they have Worcestershire sauce. That
That's
is the
about it.
greatest contribution to any cuisine in the history of mankind. Do you like Worcestershire sauce, Robert?
Man, I love it, but like, what were they putting it on? Eel? Like, you know what I mean?
I don't. I put that shit on everything. You know how they say that's the phrase for Frank's Red Hot? I
Yeah,
put Worcestershire sauce on everything. I love
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah,
And um, yeah, but no, I hear you. Like eel pie and all that crap that they used to eat. That sounds disgusting. Um,
yeah.
fish and I'm not big on. Are you big on like seafood?
I'm not, man. Like, like my favorite fish sandwich is McDonald's fish sandwich. Outside of that, like I'm not really big on seafood.
I won't
That's it.
even touch McDonald's fillet of fish. No.
Really?
Just fish in general, like just gross. It's
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
eat shrimp. I like shrimp. Um, I generally avoid like crab and lobster. I know people go nuts for it, but I don't know. Something about it, not really for me. But I
yeah.
do like shrimp.
It's the cockroaches of the ocean, man.
That's part of it,
Yeah,
just look like bugs. I guess you could say the same thing with shrimp, but I don't know. Not for me. Not for me.
yeah.
All right. So we talked about Zionism. We talked about Israel and the geopolitics of the Middle East. Um, any other hot issues top of mind, Robert, other than the State of the Union, which we'll get into here?
Yeah, I was gonna say, other than, there's really not a whole lot that has really developed outside of those key things. You got Israel, the Iranian buildup that we're amassing on their shores. Really, I mean, their ships literally are like right up next door to them. And then, so we have that armada down there. We have another armada up in the Mediterranean near Israel, so that we can hit them from multiple points. And I believe like we've even moved Air Force assets heavily even into Europe and reinforced there. So we've got a lot of assets in Europe. We've got a lot of assets in Qatar, Saudi Arabia. I mean, they're just completely surrounded right now. And not to mention, Israel will be in on the attack too if we attack. And what all the experts are saying is that this is going to be, several weeks long. It's not going to be a couple days or one day or whatever it was that we had last time. This is going to be several weeks where we're laying the piper, man, and it's going to hit hard. And I think Trump's got something to prove this time around.
I don't know. I mean, who knows what'll happen? It's not it's not practical for like a boots on the ground invasion like
Right.
they did in Iraq. Iran is a completely different animal, not only for terrain, but just sheer geographic size, population, military resources, you know. I don't know. Maybe they think they can just increase the scale of the bombing, be strategic, use similar covert tactics like they did in Venezuela or something, um, and then completely gut the regime that way. Now, what comes after is a big question.
Mhm.
Um, when you're doing like regime change operations, um, I don't know. I just, America historically, again, going back to the founders, they were very clear about us avoiding foreign entanglements. That doesn't mean that you don't have something like the Monroe Doctrine, which again, James Monroe was one of our founding fathers as well. What was he, the fifth president? I think so. And then had that policy of the Western Hemisphere is the American hemisphere. So Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, whoever, you guys stay the hell out of here,
Right.
and we'll stay out of Europe and other hemispheres. Um, that makes sense to me, you know. Again, because it's protecting what is the new world, and you've got these huge, vast oceans. You can invest in defense. best offense is good defense. So that makes sense. But going off and doing regime change against Iran, again, what
Yeah.
threat does Iran genuinely pose to us? And even
Mhm.
if they were to have nuclear weapons, how many countries in the world have nuclear weapons? So
Mhm.
are we just picking on Iran? So Israel, because of why? Because of Israel? Or do we think that they're going to reinstate the Persian Empire of Xerxes or something like that? That's not reality. Not reality. So let just focus on America. We've got so much debt that goes back to our beginning conversation. We have trillions and we're adding what 2 trillion a year. So I mean it's just an insane amount of money. We've got societies crumbling. Look at here in Marion. We talk about all the shit that's going on with crumbling infrastructure, contaminated water, um, budgets for both our county and our city are in the shitter. Inflation, cost increases, electric increases, really no jobs or economic development. And how much money are we spending on shit like this? Overseas, it doesn't benefit us, you know? And then you look at these other countries, you talked about Qatar, or you name the country. Look at their airports. Look at pictures of their cities,
Mhm.
their infrastructure.
Yeah.
They're like in another century. In
Mhm.
America, they're so disconnected from reality because we're just kind of in our bubble here that we don't realize that. We
Yeah.
think that like, oh, it's the greatest country in the world. Well, in a lot of respects it is, in many more respects it used to be,
Mhm.
but we're getting lapped. We're getting lapped by all these other countries as far as economic development and advancement, infrastructure, that sort of thing. Because we waste so much money on shit like this.
Mhm.
Going over and taking out, this country or giving our money to this country. All the while, open borders within a country that has a welfare state. So come over here and send us all your criminals and ne'er do wells um, to drain whatever resources we do have here at home.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, if you look at, you had mentioned earlier about what happened with the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire had gotten so big that they were essentially having military bases spread out throughout the known world at that time. And then they were so weak financially as well. And then they had internal strife, just like we do. I mean, it's textbook, man. It's like it's happening all over again. And it wasn't just one thing. You know, any good historian will tell you that it wasn't just one thing that resulted in uh, the collapse of the Roman Empire. Then you throw in, you had barbarians. Remember, they had immigrants. They had, they tried to have strong borders, but they still had some weak fronts. I mean, they really weren't that strong in the Germanic front. They couldn't keep the Germanic tribes at bay. So, they had some weak borders in certain areas. They had weak fiscal policy. They were overexpanded, and then they had internal strife and division. You add all of those things up, man, and it's a ticking time bomb, and that's where we are in the United States. My wife and I were just talking about this the other day about how, we had talked to this elderly gentleman, and we was talking about politics and whatnot, and he was like, "I remember a day where you used to just go and vote and nobody knew whether you were Republican or Democrat because you didn't talk about those things. You could sit down at the bar, you could sit down at church and have a friendship with somebody and you didn't know whether they were Republican or Democrat. And now, you know if somebody's Republican or Democrat or Libertarian or whatever it is, they're going to tell you. I mean, it's painted on their forehead, they got the bumper sticker and everything. And in some ways that's good. Obviously, like we need to be able to identify who we are at times. But I'm just kind of speaking to the point historically where we come from as a nation. I can't remember who it was. One of our guests recently was talking about the JFK Democrats, where he might be a Republican today. we've just come so far. And to your point, we're a ticking time bomb. And if Congress does not get this under control, and I know we have no faith that they will, we're a recipe for disaster. And it's unfortunate because we are honestly the greatest country that this world has ever known. You look at the structure that our founders put in place was so revolutionary. Like the Greeks didn't foresee this. The Romans, both the Greeks and the Romans, did their own forms of government, republic and democracy, and we literally merged the two together in almost the perfect fashion. But even that structure hasn't entirely withstood the rot from the inside, because when you start turning on one another, the structure is not going to stand. And Jesus said that a house divided will not stand. So, but when you have two sides that literally look at each other as enemies instead of just disagreements, how do you reconcile that? How do you reconcile? How would we reconcile with the Iranians? Where we think that they want to kill us and they think we want to kill them. I can only imagine sitting in the negotiating table right now in Geneva. We have a delegation in Geneva. The Iranians have a delegation in Geneva, and what that conversation's like. They just got to pretend to be nice, but they really are like, you know what? As soon as we leave here, we're bombing you. So
Yeah, it's just these forever wars, intervention. Just focus on America. It should be America first, America only, in my mind. But the policies are always America last. And that's unfortunate. It really is. All right. So State of Union was delivered. Jade, you got some clips for us here that we can play.
I have the 45-minute excerpt speech, but I don't have it parsed out.
Okay. I don't know if we can find the best part of that clip
Which one?
just to demonstrate. Oh, Robert,
where they
start
were
talking.
where they were standing, or where Trump was,
Yeah, they refused to stand. Yeah.
where the Democrats refused to stand on the immigration issue. And that's just indicative of, like, again, to my point, how far we have separated. If you go back to, if you're a Democrat listening, you got to be honest with yourself on this immigration issue at minimum. Okay, we can debate anything else, but if you look at your own party's historical stance on immigration, it aligns more with today's Republican Party than you want to admit. Look at even statements from Obama when he was a senator, or look at former President Bill Clinton. Some of the statements he made on getting immigration in check. Historically, Democrats have been more in line. And then, not to mention, Cody, you remember the other day you were talking about comments that Biden used to say when he was a senator in the 70s. I mean, the guy was racist. Like, he was racist. He was misogynistic. Like, dude was on another level. But like, we're not allowed to talk about that. They want to talk about Trump and his days on TV and all those things. But like, let's not talk about Biden's history. Let's not talk about anybody else's history. And that doesn't give any of these guys a pass by any means. But just kind of pointing out the hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy abounds. I sent that link to you, Jade. Pull that one up.
Now, if this was 1994 and Clinton gave that speech, both Republican and Democrats would have been standing.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, the whole thing, and it was the longest State of the Union address ever delivered. But the entire time, every single issue that was brought up, Democrats are sitting there with a scowl on their face, or you got Ilhan Omar that was shouting who knows what, screaming. Other Dems were screaming. And then this point in the evening was probably the best representation of what the Democrat Party in 2026 stands for. Let's take a look.
We can never forget that many in this room not only allowed the border invasion to happen before I got involved, but indeed they would do it all over again if they ever had the chance. If they ever got elected, they would open up those borders to some of the worst criminals anywhere in the world. The only thing standing between Americans and a wide open border right now is President Donald J. Trump and our great Republican patriots in Congress. Thank you. Thank you.
Happy to be strong.
As we speak, Democrats in this chamber have cut off all funding for the Department of Homeland Security. It's all cut off. It's all cut off. They have instituted another Democrat shutdown, the first one costing us 2 points on GDP. 2 points we lost on GDP, which probably made them quite happy, actually. Now they have closed the agency responsible for protecting Americans from terrorists and murderers. Tonight I'm demanding the full and immediate restoration of all funding for the border security, homeland security of the United States, and also for helping people clean up their snow. We have no money because of the Democrats, and it would be nice, we'd love to give you a hand at cleaning it up, but you gave no money. Nobody's getting paid. It's a shame. So you have to think about it. We have, in case you didn't know, a pretty large snowstorm out there. One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight I'm inviting every legislature to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Republicans on that side of the chamber, they're all laughing, cheering, standing. You got questions. And you got the Democrats there on the left side. And they just sit and smile. They don't even agree with the statement that the primary duty of the American government is to protect and benefit the American people and not illegal aliens.
It's amazing. I mean, there's no words. Like, how do you sit down as an elected representative of the people and say, yeah, I don't put the American people first? I mean, doesn't get any more incriminating than that.
Yeah, and these assholes are sworn to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, the people, the representation of government of the people, by the people, for the people. They don't represent us. Their interests, as they just demonstrated, are for the foreign horde, for the illegal aliens. And that's why Biden let in 10, 12 million of them during his 4 years in office. And this is just so abhorrent and sickening that so much of our government has been compromised. Is that right, Robert? I mean, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, just going back to that point earlier, like the Democrat Party today is not the Democrat Party of the old, and it's sad how far we've come. And I hope that the American people see this as a day of reckoning. You know, you need to get out to the polls. The midterms are coming up this fall. So honestly, I mean, this is like, if I was a Republican strategist right now, I mean, I would be hammering this point home, you know, day in and day out, because it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't get any more incriminating than this.
No, and this is what I'm talking about with, and that's why I brought it up with last night's interview with Christy Neff. as far as reformed Democrats who are now Republicans, who saw the light, who had the Democrat Party leave them with their radical agenda and their anti-American policies and beliefs. This is it. So, in my mind, if you are a native born, what you would say a heritage American, and you're voting Democrat, then you're either evil or incredibly stupid or incredibly ignorant. There's nothing that can be redeemed out of that display, and then just their policies and agendas across the board, culturally, economically, everything.
Right.
So that's why, and I would go back like even further. I mean, people should have been aware where things were headed and what the true agenda of the Democrat Party was with Obama. Before Obama, when you're talking Clinton and eras before that, a little bit more difficult. You could be like a blue dog Democrat, kind of a blue collar, working class Democrat, union guy. You could love America and be a decent human being. But now, I don't know. Like I said, you're either evil, you're either stupid, or you're ignorant of the truth. Would you agree with that, Robert?
Absolutely. And it really comes to, at some point you have to put principles and people over party, and they're all just playing the party game. And it's sad to see. The only thing that's going to fix this, guys, is getting out to the polls. I mean, if we're not getting out to the polls and voting these people out, it's just going to get worse. And at some point, the rot can happen to the Republican Party too. The Republican Party is not immune to the same type of swings. So we got to get out there and vote, and raise awareness, and try to reverse course.
Yeah, and make sure that you're also holding the Republican Party and its candidates um, to their word too. And
Right.
that's why, like, I don't know, it frustrates me so much when on the campaign trail, just the usual rhetoric of I'm America first, I'm going to do this is what, and then they get in office and they do the exact opposite. They do America last policies, and they do 180s on what they promised on the campaign trail and stuff. Like, we got to get rid of that shit. It's got to be all hands on deck of America First policies and trying to fix this stuff foundationally. And I'm not confident in the ability to overcome the amount of debt and cultural rot and degradation that we've already sustained over the past 60 years since the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s, and the fiscal and monetary policy during that time. But I want to say that there's hope. I want to think that it can be done, and it can be a new dawn in this country once again, because it hasn't been going well.
Right.
And these changes, the earth spins, but we don't feel it move.
Yeah.
But it's still spinning. And that's kind of these changes that happen civilizationally. And I'm trying to think of, I think it was uh, a quote by a famous communist, actually. You might have heard it. Vladimir Lenin, the first leader Bolshevik Revolution and then the foundation of the Soviet Union. He said that there are decades in which, or there's decades in which nothing of substance happens. And then there are days in which decades happen. Meaning, at certain times in human history, things just kind of go on a certain course, kind of slow, nothing huge happens. But then there's certain times where world earth-shattering events happen in a really short period.
Mm-hmm.
And those events would typically take decades to occur. But at certain times in history, it happens real quick. And that's kind of where I think that where we're headed. I think that we're in store for some big earth-shattering events, like really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, we're toward I said earlier, it's the death throes of empire. And America has been the world hegemony with the global reserve currency status, the world's only superpower for since World War II. I mean, you could throw the Cold War in there and say there were two, and that's true. So if you want to say toward, since the end of the Soviet Union, okay, go ahead and say that.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had global reserve currency status since 1944 in Bretton Woods. But our mismanagement financially, where now we're just accruing trillions upon trillions in debt. I think we're headed for one of those earth-shattering events very soon. I don't know what it'll be, but I think it's coming. Robert?
Yeah, I guess one of my final things, I almost feel like you and I, we kind of got a little doom and gloom there for a minute, but we did kind of talk a little bit about faith and theology, and I guess for our listeners, and I don't want to be preachy, but just make sure you're right with God at the end of the day, because at the end, that's all that matters. Only His eternal kingdom is what will stand in the end. And man's systems and structures will fail us, but it's how we stand before God at the end of the day that all that matters. So that's just my last point. I'm not trying to be too preachy, but just when you're going through a lot of things, and we're getting ready to go through a lot of things here in this world, you got to have faith, because it's one of the only things that's going to get you through some tough times. And so just be prepared, and be there for your fellow man, your neighbors. The other point I wanted to make too is, historically, Democrats have been pretty good at organizing at the grassroots level compared to Republicans. I think they've gotten better over the last 10 years. And digitally, the Republicans dominate on podcasts and those things. They've really turned that ship around, because traditionally Democrats have dominated media. But we've usually dominated at state level politics, and Democrats have dominated at the local level. And I think that they need to have more emphasis on local government initiatives and grassroots initiatives, because there's a lot of things that can happen there. So that would just be my other final point, is as people listening today, is to get involved.
Get involved, get right with God, or whatever higher power that you may or may not believe in, I suppose. But I don't know. Again, like Robert said, it's not to try to be doom and gloom, but you got to be realistic. It does no good to bury your head in the sand and to ignore what's going on around you. kind of goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. And we've talked about it before too, but that's the only way that this system works. If you want to have representative government, if you want to have a republic, it requires, as our founder said, not only a virtuous people, but also um, a virtuous people who are duty bound to participate and be informed and be involved. So goes with that too. Um, you have to be aware and you have to speak your mind. I think that's we went through. You know, when I was growing up, Robert and Jay, um, you would hear people say you don't discuss politics or religion in
Mhm.
polite society. So meaning like keep your mouth shut when it comes to that. What a dumb anti-American load of shit that was. If
Yeah.
there's one thing that you should talk about, it should be things of substance. Have intellectual conversations. Talk about current events. Talk about religion and philosophy and theology, history, politics. Those things matter. And it irks the hell out of me with all these people obsessed with sports ball. And you know, I'll never forget, like I was on a business trip here a couple years ago. It's probably been more than a couple, maybe 5, 6 years ago. And I go to this bar and grill, and I'm sitting there by myself because it was out of town or whatever. And there was a group of guys, and there were a variety of ages, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're sitting up at the bar, and they're all, or they were sitting at like a high top or whatever. And I was just listening to them, and they were talking about football, and they knew every single stat, they knew every single player, they knew every single game that that player's ever played in. They were just sitting here, and it was like Rain Man. If you ever seen that movie with Dustin Hoffman, where he was basically like a idiot savant, could remember every single number, word, or whatever, rattle it off, and that's I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, what if I go up there and ask him a question about the current president or politics or, uh, you know, question from history? Would they know anything?
Right.
If I asked them who their senator was, would they be able to tell me?
Right. No.
Um, Probably not. So these, the Romans, talking about the Romans, you had rulers like, I think it was Caligula that coined the phrase bread and circuses. And that's what they started to do as distractions for the Roman public. Give them bread and circuses, and they'll be
Mhm.
content. And what are our modern day bread and circuses? Well, we've got fast food and shit like that. That's basically Frankenstein processed, not real food. And then you've got circuses, which NFL, NBA, NCAA, and they're distractions largely. They're also a replacement for religion. People pray to those institutions on a regular basis. They worship them. And where else, how many times do you see um, clips of fans in the stand and they're crying, they're bawling, their team lost or their team is losing. And I sit there and I say, what the hell is that? What Who gives a shit? And I know everyone wants to, I'm nobody agrees with me on this. I know nobody does. I'm sitting here, I'm a hater, all this stuff. People just want to be entertained and they're passionate about something that they're interested in. And it doesn't hurt anybody. I get it. I get it. I'm wrong. I'm an evil person, but it does, it is indicative of what I just said of bread and circuses. It is indicative of people misplacing, like completely disregarding the reality of the situation that's going on around them on stuff of substance, stuff that matters. And they're replacing it with a distraction of something that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. That's my only point. That's my only point. I like NCAA football. I watch it. I enjoy it. That's about the extent of my sports ball spectating. But all right, we've pissed off enough people tonight, I think, or at least I have. But again, have these conversations.
Right.
And the other thing about the free exchange of ideas, freedom of speech, these are all American values, American institutions. So, I don't care. I may not, it's just like, who was it? Was it Thomas Paine? No, Patrick Henry. It was Patrick Henry, the great orator and legislator of Revolutionary War fame from Virginia, who said, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. So I'm pretty well the same way. Like, go ahead and say what you want. We can have a debate. We can have a conversation. Free exchange of ideas. I may disagree with you, but you have a right to say it. So, all right.
Right.
I think that's enough for the night. So join us next week. We'll be unveiling the guest schedule here shortly, probably over the weekend. Not sure if it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday again, or if we're just going to do Tuesday.
I know we have
or
Ralph committed for Tuesday, so we'll announce that later.
Ralph on Tuesday. All right, so be sure to tune in on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. right here on Facebook Live on the Watchman's Report for Ralph Smith, Republican councilman representing the 3rd Ward. He's also on Finance Committee. So lots to discuss with the city of Marion. And every day there's something new. Every day there's something new in Marion.
It's like the Jack in the Box. You like wind up the Jack in the Box. You never know what he's gonna pop out.
You never know. You never know. So be sure to tune in for that. And then, we'll probably have 1 or 2 other guests next week as well. So who knows? Be sure to check out the page to see who it might be. So for Jason Foreman, for Robert Landon, I'm Cody Higley, and this has been the Watchman's Report. And remember, folks, a watchman is always, always, always vigilant. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Sound the alarm! To arms! They are here!